Hello and thanks for checking in with Crossroads with me, Lee Bannister, and a very happy new year to you from all of us here at Big Centre TV. Now, Crossroads is the iconic Midlands soap opera which ran from 1964 to 1988 and again from 2001 to 2003. And in the early days of Big Centre TV, you'll probably remember that we ran many of the early episodes from the programme's first decade, beginning in 1965. Now, last week we took another look at a couple of episodes from the 60s and one from the 70s. We also had the first part of our brand new and exclusive interview with Jane Rossington. Well, we'll be checking in again with Jane shortly, and then our 3 episodes straight after the show will take us firmly into the 70s with episodes 1886, 2583 and 2602. Now, episode 1886 is from March 1973, and the synopsis tells us that Vera, the victim of some sinister phone calls, is encouraged by Sig Gilbert to confide in him. Timothy and Kevin's bet to catch Meg continues, though she has thwarted them both by disappearing to the Hotel Droitwich for the week, and Vera's watch is stolen. Episode 2583 is from August 1976. Now, Glenda and Vera discuss Rita Whitten's trouble-stirring behaviour. Mrs. Whitten takes her suspicions of theft to Sandy, but he's reluctant to involve the police. And then episode 2602 is from September 1976, while Meg tries to decide whether she's either being blackmailed or bribed by Sir Hector Prince. She expends her wrath about the potential scandal on Rex Oliver. Hugh appalls David with his plans for a new disco at the motel, but that's still all to come. For now, let's settle down in the company of Crossroads' very own Jane Rossington for more of her memories and of her time on the Midlands' very own serial. Your first day on set or in the studio, everybody was sworn to secrecy, weren't they? Nobody knew what was going on.
I walked up and I didn't know where to go, and I looked around, there was nobody else, I couldn't see anybody else. And I went up to this extremely glamorous lady with the hair and, you know, the false eyelashes, and said, "I'm here to see Reg Watson about Crossroads." And she said, "What?" And I said, "Crossroads." And she said, "No, there's nothing of that here." And I said, "Oh, well, I was told to come, really." And so I didn't know what to do. I was sort of hovering around. Anyway, thank God, Reg walked in and said, "Ah, there you are. We've been looking for you all over the place." And I said, "Well, they told me..." And he said, "Oh, they're all sworn to secrecy. They're not supposed to talk about it or anything. So come this way, this way." And suddenly I was into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what were your first impressions of sort of the main members of the cast, you know, Nolly, Roger, Beryl Johnson?
Well, they were all... Yes, Beryl, yeah, dear Beryl. They were super... Well, I adored Roger, playing my brother. He was super, absolutely gorgeous. And I loved him dearly. You see, they couldn't use us all at the same time. Well, they did use us all at the same time because it was the 6. No, it was more than 6. 8. There was 8 of us. But every episode would probably have one new person in it who was only in for 1 or 2 or maybe a couple of weeks episodes. See, bear in mind, a couple of weeks is 10 episodes. Quite a lot can happen in that time. Yeah. So that's how it was. So we were perpetually learning lines. And when you looked at the script, you looked at the page, it was covered in writing. Now, nowadays, you would never see that. It's all instructions. You know, she looks up, she looks through the window, she thinks, she changes her mind, she goes to the car, she opens the door, she shuts it, and all that. And that would be a whole page, maybe 2 pages, but it won't be dialogue. But it'll be just as interesting and take up as much time. But in our day, we didn't have that. We didn't have any filming, so everything had to be done in the studio. And we also had a problem, I think, with the technical side, which I never understood, because we used to film onto kind of not videotape. Video wasn't invented.
It would be film, wouldn't it?
It was some sort of film, or telecine.
That's it, a tele-recording.
Tele-recording.
Film would film
and
the TV screen.
very difficult to edit. That's why we had no editing, because they always said to me, well, what happens is the sound, if you say that's the tape, the sound goes on there and the vision goes on there, or whatever it was. So that if you cut the tape, it didn't join up. You know, you had people go, or whatever.
That's it, yes.
So it was about, let me think, we started in 64. We went into colour in 69, which I thought was a great move, because we all look much better in colour, because black and white isn't a very kind you know.
No, no. Of course, you also moved premises when you went into colour. You moved from Aston into the centre of Birmingham, into the ATV centre.
Well, we had the ATV centre, which was fabulous, right in the centre of Birmingham. And I think the Birmingham Council, it was council land, and they let it to ATV on a peppercorn rent for about, I think they had a very long lease. I think they had about 35 years on the lease. And because I know more about leases now. And anyway, it was super, and they built a fabulous studio in this space. And they had a big studio, which was the studio really for all the big television shows. You know, I can't remember what we had, but
all the audience shows, New Faces,
all those,
and the game shows, and so on,
and things like that. Terrific. And we were in the second studio, and there was a tiny news studio, so you had 3 studios, and lots of dressing rooms, and it was really almost state of the art. And I remember one thing they had done. It was a clever idea, but it all these ideas, architects don't always know how things are run. And in the makeup room, we had these lovely long tables and all these beautiful mirrors, and you could have your hair done and everything. But they cut some holes in the top, and the idea was you could put something underneath and you could put tissues down there.
Right.
Well, what happens, of course, you put something down and it goes straight through the hole.
Now, your character was Jill.
Yes.
With many surnames.
Well, yeah, I got through a few. I started off as Richardson.
Yes.
And then I was Stan, what was Stan's other name? What was
Harvey.
Harvey, that's it. Yes, of course it was the Harvey household. I was, yes, Jill Harvey. For a long time I was Jill Harvey. And a long happy time, that was super, with dear Stan, Ted. And then, Ted, that's right, nearly had a nervous breakdown, and he said, I can't cope anymore, I want some time off, and I think, actually, I want to leave the show. Because he did 8 years, and he did a lot of the hard work. You know, he was one of the people who did a lot of talking. Yeah. So, hard work. And then I met dear Tony Adams, who became, but he had been in the show earlier, and I'd missed him. He was in for 2 weeks when I was off on holiday or something. Right. Because that was another problem. They hadn't worked out quite what to do. When you were in a show like that, you know, if you wanted some time off, you've got to be written out. I'd gone to see a distant relative or something, which was boring for them, because if they wanted to use you and you weren't there. So we were all having great difficulty flogging on and thinking, oh, I'm dying for a day off or whatever. So then it was only when the ITA, Independent Television Authority, started to decide in their wisdom that really, you know, this was far too popular and they weren't interested in it, and what the hell. They didn't understand why people were watching it. They thought it was not good. So they started to say, well, you can't have so many episodes. So we were restricted then and pushed down to 3 episodes a week. Well, actually, that was great, because that was when Jack was running it, and Jack said, and we were all talking about it one day, and he said, right, we're going to have to do 3 a week. This is going to be most awkward. Do we do 2.5 and what? We were trying to work out how to allocate this extra time. But in fact, what we found out was that it's very easy to do 4. So we just carried on doing 4. Yeah. And that meant we gathered a week. Yes. So every 13 weeks, we'd have so many extras in the can, we could all have a holiday. So instead of having to say, please, can I have, you know, a week off? Please, can I go and see my whatever? Instead of that, you knew that you were going to have 2 weeks off at Christmas, 2 weeks off at Easter, 6 weeks off in the summer, and 2 weeks off in the autumn, which was fantastic. And in that time, you were supposed to be doing things like going shopping. This is when we then we didn't have to provide our own clothes then, and we had a wardrobe and all that sort of thing. So we did all that, and that was and they'd do a bit of filming. That's when the filming really started. So you knew that you didn't always get 6 weeks off. You perhaps got 4.5 weeks off, and then you were filming for a week, or whatever. But it was giving us spaces in the time scale to do that, and that helped the show, I think, a lot.
Tell me about the pigeons.
Oh yes, Wilf.
Yes.
Early days, we were at the Gas Street Basin on a freezing cold winter's day, and he was going to show me all about pigeons, and we had these pigeons all flying, you know, and he was going to get them out and show me how to hold them and throw them up in the air. And when it came to the crunch, he said, I can't do it. I can't face touching these things. So, drama, drama, drama. Anyway, so I said, well, look, shall I get it out and hold it? Say, is this right? As if you've just told me. Can you come in at the scene like that? He said, oh, yes, good idea. So we did that. But it really was... It was lovely. I'm not terribly good with... Well, I've got better at... You get better at all these things as you get older. But, I can pick up a chicken now. No. But I was finding it difficult myself. And, they were fluttering. They didn't want to be picked up. But anyway, we did it. And it was fine. But it was freezing cold.
OK, time for a quick break now. But when we come back, we'll return to the lounge to hear more from Jane Rossington. Don't check out. We'll be back in a few minutes. Welcome back to our New Year check-in at the Crossroads Motel. Now remember, after this show, we've got 3 back-to-back episodes from Crossroads' heyday in the 1970s. But before then, let's return to the lounge and hear more in our brand new interview from Crossroads' very own leading lady, Jane Rossington. So we go through to the 80s now. We've touched on it already. Nolly left.
Yes.
That sort of changed the whole dynamic of the whole show, didn't it?
Oh, it did. Jack didn't want her to go, but he'd obviously been leaned on so heavily. And we just sort of carried on, and she's not there. Then suddenly, in the script, we were doing some more filming, and we were going to Venice. And I think it was when that's right, Tony was going to propose to me in Venice. It was going to be romantic and wonderful. And let's think, so we're in Venice, and we walk into this place where we're staying, and we look up, and there is Nolly standing. It's almost like Romeo and Juliet. She's up there in a window, and we're going, etc. And she comes down, and we have a scene, and she's not. We think she's died, you see, or so, because nobody knew what happened to her. Yeah. And so all these rumours about it, and I don't know what they said, but I don't think it's decided on. It's whether were they going to kill her off or were they not. You see.
I think in the series it was only your character that knew what had happened, wasn't it?
Yeah, I think it was.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Because I don't think Tony was party to that scene. Anyway, so the scene that we did where Tony was going to propose, we had a tiny problem, in as much as there'd been dramas at the back at the whatever, and they were all on strike, and we wanted to take some prop people to do some props, but we were obliged to take the electrics. We didn't actually need them. We had to take a crew of 8 or 12.
Union rules.
Union rules. I think they all went first class.
Oh.
And I went first class, but only because they ran out of seats in the other bit. So, and I was really cross because I had scrambled egg on toast for my breakfast on the plane in first class, and they all had much better food in the ordinary, where we all usually are. I was a bit miffed about that. Anyway, we got there, and we came to this place, and we were going to gaze all around beautiful Venice. And he was going to hold my hand. It was going to be romantic, and drink the champagne. Well, there was 2 glasses on the table, I think, but that was all. Oh. Because if anyone... No, there were no glasses, that's right. There was nothing on the table, and we were not allowed to put anything on it. So we had to change the dialogue a bit. And we just sit there by this empty table, or lean on it or whatever, and gaze into the future and across the, oh, isn't that beautiful, and all this kind of thing. But we couldn't do anything. We couldn't eat, we couldn't drink. Oh, we did another scene where we're right up on top of the Campanile, which is the clock tower, in St Mark's Square, that looks straight down, right? Now, we had to do that at 6 in the morning because it gets so crowded. And we have to climb up, and Jack and the film crew are on the top of St Mark's with with the horses. Yes. He's up there with the horses and a camera, and we're up here. We're not that far away, but we had a walkie-talkie thing which promptly broke down. We then had people running up and down the stairs and going, saying, when I wave, and then Jack found a megaphone, and he said, I'll give you a shout, and then I'll drop. So he's got a big something, and he waves it down, and that's when we had to start. Anyway, then as we got up there, and they're lining everything up, and they keep on saying, come forward through this thing. So we keep coming forward, and we're getting very close to this guardrail.
Oh.
And it's not it's not like up here. It's down there, and it's slightly sloping. And we're supposed to be gazing into the distance, and he's saying, "I love you, I love you," and I think, "Oh no," it was all brief encounter type stuff, and we keep getting closer and closer to this thing, and eventually we touch it, and I'm hanging onto it for grim life. And if you dared to sort of do that, it was just straight down.
Yeah.
And anyway, my heart's beating, thinking, just let's get this scene in the can for, before we have a dreadful accident. And at which point I became aware of the fact there's more people up there. And there's the public are coming up.
Oh, right.
And I don't know how they've managed to get up, but they have. They hadn't stopped them. And they were coming out of the conning tower, a bit like a sort of Monty Python sketch, people climbing out and then going, ooh, and clinging on to bits. And it wasn't and we finished the scene, and they were told, shh. And we just managed to do it. And we're sort of saying, I love you, and gaze into the distance, and holding hands. I don't take the other hand off it.
Oh, dear.
It was hysterical. And Jack had been saying, come forward. Anyway, we did it. And we did it quite quickly, looking back. And then we tried to get back down. Well, they were all coming up. Oh. And in the end, there seemed to be like 50 people on this very tight thing. And somebody, fortunately, started with a deep voice and said, will everybody go back down? There's too many people up here. It's a nightmare.
Oh, dear.
And I struggled away from that. And anyway, it was terrific fun. We did that all in about 5 days, 4 days maybe. Wow. And that was super.
Oh. So, of course, through the 80s, we're kind of coming towards the end, I suppose. Yeah. Many changes happened.
Well, all the changes were we had new producers, and they had completely different ideas. There was one very nice chap, and I can't remember his name, Patrick something. I got on very well with him. He was fine, and I thought I'd be sacked, but no, I wasn't. And we continued the story of Jill and Adam. 1 minute we're married, next minute we're not, and we're not speaking. The moment we got married, or looked like we were getting married, we split. And as I came, I always joke, going just back to the beginning, when I came down the aisle the first time with Ted, as I came down, we stopped for a second, and I said, I'll tell you what, this is it. When I get to the bottom, you'll be leaving me, because they say it's too boring. You can't have people in love and it's all going
drama, isn't it?
Exactly, yeah, exactly. So let me think. Now we had Patrick, and he didn't stay very long. He went off and did something else. And then, I think we had somebody else, I can't remember, but then we had William Smethurst, who was running the Archers at the time. And from my point of view, he was marvellous, because he didn't just... My character had always been told to me, all the characters in the early days of theatre and television, you were the Juve lead or you were the lead. Mm. The lead was a little bit older and had a stronger storyline. And the Juve lead was just a girl, and you could play it how you liked. Yeah. It was never given any character, not particularly. And so I'd just been the daughter. Suddenly, with William, I had quite funny scenes. I had lots of scenes with Paul Henry, and Paul Henry used to outwit me regularly. And I'd be standing there with a kind of, not quite sure if I won the argument there, one of those sort of... And it was fun doing that, because I was doing a bit of acting as opposed to just doing it. And for me, he was very good. Mm. He was very good. And then suddenly, out of the blue, in fact, we'd broken up for our 6 weeks holiday, and I think we were about 2 weeks into it, and this bombshell was announced in one of the papers that it was coming off. They'd never had a board meeting. They'd never had any decisions about it. And anyway, it was just the chap who, I can't remember his name, who was the...
Andy Allen.
Andy Allen, right. When the press office, and again, I don't think there was anybody in the press office, were asked by a paper, can you confirm that this is true? Sort of said, yeah, because there was nobody there to say, what are you talking about? Just a minute. And there'd been no evaluation or anything. So, and I think Andy had always wanted it off. It wasn't his cup of tea. And I mean, I think he's quite a nice bloke, but he would have been quite glad to see the back of us, because he felt that we were occupying too much studio space, even though we were still in the small, not the big studio at all. And anyway, who needs a studio when you can film now? You don't need them.
Well, yeah.
No, you only need them occasionally. You need them for the news, don't you?
That's right.
But that's about it. And so I think there was a bit of that going on. And they were thinking, oh, it's tired, we're losing ratings. Well, we weren't losing ratings. And then, of course, the rest is history.
You look back on it fondly?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. And I've got some very good friends out of it. And it's been marvellous. I've been a very lucky person. You know, no two ways about it.
I think that's a perfect way to finish. Jane, thank you.
Thank you.
Massive thank you to Jane from me for spending so much time reminiscing about her time on Crossroads. And that's about all we have time for on this New Year Crossroads check-in. Don't check out just yet though, because for the next hour and a half you can sit back and enjoy 3 back-to-back episodes of Crossroads from the 1970s. It's 1886, 2583 and 2602. Now I'm off to find Damie Turtle now to see if she's washed me mug. I'll see you soon. Crossroads Motel, can I help you?